everyone, and welcome to the Sarra Show. Today's incredible episode is with two people that are very, very, very dear to my heart, Mr. Erik and Mr. Francis. We've been friends for a couple of years now, like sharing deeply weekly. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Riche for creating the Trusted Advisor, which was an amazing container for coaches to learn how to approach corporate clients. So if you're a coach and you're watching today, I highly recommend you reach out to Riche. He's absolutely incredible, and he's allowed us to create this awesome friendship that we've continued has it been 2 years, guys?
Yeah, it's a little over 2, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
It's so nice to have you. It's also the first time I do this with two guests at the same time. So let's see.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Glad to be part of the first.
Let's see how this goes.
Usually it's a Zoom with 3 people, and now it's live.
Yeah.
I know. So we meet about monthly on Zoom, and we just create this incredible space where we share about business, personal things, everything. I feel like it's such a safe, vulnerable space where I can just bring anything.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for all that you're doing, and grateful to be here. Grateful to share this space with you. Hopefully, I'll say something that's of value for whoever's watching.
You do. No,
all right, cool.
I don't think you've ever said anything that wasn't of value, at least on Zoom.
Yeah.
Let's just pretend we're on Zoom.
All right.
Or maybe not.
Yeah.
So you guys are in Miami. That's exciting. Welcome. So nice to see you in person.
Yeah, that's a really amazing. I'm grateful. Like, it's how this all came together, just to be together in person. It's one thing getting together, and I'm super grateful for both of your commitments when we show up on Zoom, and it's the consistency and the discipline and the commitment is amazing. But to be together and be able to hug one another and just be in each other's presence it's just, it's awesome.
Yeah, it was just a request. It was our last call, right? Like we just said, hey, you're going to be in Miami. You asked me, and then I took a little bit more time, but I'm here. So this is our level of commitment. No push-ups required today.
Right.
Thank you for not making me do push-ups today. That was a good 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been, no, is it push-ups or
plank? A 10-minute plank.
10 minutes
plank.
You could probably do a 10-minute plank though, right?
Yeah, but not today.
That's how we do the calls, accountability to the level of power of 10.
Yep.
Yeah. Francis, you drove 5 hours to be here today. So.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for inviting. It's a pleasure. I mean, I can see you in person. I'll drive anytime, any day for that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. That degree of commitment, like I said, that's who you're being. That's who you are. You're trustworthy, loyal, committed, and
good looking.
Just yeah, no cap, no homo.
Yeah. I think it starts to be almost like our calls right now. There's always a touch of
exactly.
humor at one point. Yeah, I like
it.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
I think the last time we saw each other was almost a year ago, where we actually all met at Erik and Judy's house in Arizona, right? Wasn't it?
Yes, it was right after
January.
It was right after the event. You had come over to record a podcast with Judy, and it seemed like everybody was coming to our house right afterwards. And then Riche was over because he was at the event, and then you stopped by to see Riche on your way somewhere.
Yeah, because I was picking up my stuff from California, driving with my car to Florida. So I was just on my way. And, it was a beautiful drive, and then we just met at that time.
Were you moving to Florida by then already?
Yeah, that was, I had stuff in Vancouver, had stuff in California. So January was all of my things from California to bring in Vancouver. And then in July, I went to Vancouver and picked up my stuff. So the surprise is that my car was not driven for a year. So when I first arrived, the battery was dead. $3,000 later of repairs. I was driving back, but it was a beautiful drive. It was great. So the car went perfect. And yeah, so it felt I think it was 2024 was the beginning of really more focus, and next year is going to be execution and expansion. And yeah, I think it's going to be the same for you, right?
Yeah. Ooh, 2025. That's going to be a lot of stuff. Finishing the film and doing some film market stuff. I already have a trip to Berlin in February scheduled for the Berlin Film Festival. And that's really to network and shake hands and meet with people that are doing the sales and distribution side, because that's probably the biggest area that I'm not familiar with. So excited.
Maybe we should hear about your like that's the time now to do the plug for your movie, my friend.
Well, and you started it. You got me out of being stuck. And so just FYI, when it comes out, if you're watching this, special thanks to this fine gentleman in the credits, a line all to himself, because he got me unstuck with making it happen and stop making excuses. And that was the first time we met.
Yeah, that was
the first time we met, and you're up in my grill.
Being in your face.
Yeah, you challenging me, and that's what I appreciate. I appreciated that you cared more about me than listening to my excuses or my limitation in that moment. And I felt it. I felt like it came from a place of love, and I'm like, snapped me out of that space. And
so what is your movie?
Yeah.
What is this in Arizona at your house?
Yeah, it was
so like that magical day.
So
when we were all there, right?
This was the first. This was the first TUE event that Judy hosted, and it was after the event was complete and everybody's hanging out in the lobby of the hotel. And
I don't even remember why. We just probably introduced ourselves. And
Judy, I think you had talked to Judy, and then she said, you have to meet Francis and the things that you were up to and just your passion and in who you were being. And I said, sweet. And he was all dressed to the nines in this like suit, like he was ready to like cut somebody. He was so sharp, I was afraid to hug him because I was going to end up bleeding somewhere. But yeah, and then that's when that conversation happened. And I was in this space of, I was making excuses of why I wasn't moving forward with the film production. The film, just in case anybody is curious what that is.
We're very curious, Erik.
It's called 2 Weeks Notice, The Departure of Hella Sketchy. And Hella Sketchy was my late son. He was a hip hop artist. And the reason for 2 Weeks Notice was that when he went into the hospital, he died of an overdose, but he was in the ICU for 2 weeks. And it was as if he said, I'm out, like I'm departing from this existence, and I'm going to give my 2 weeks notice so we could visit with him. And he was comatose most, like the entire time, and not really responsive. However, there was just this knowing that he was present and that he could hear us, and gave everybody the opportunity to come and say what they needed to say. As challenging and as heart-wrenching as that is, it was beautiful at the same time. And so, yeah, we recently have a new producer that's just come on, and his primary focus is the sales and distribution side. And I shared the story with him. And initially when we talked, it was funny because I could tell there was tension. Like his head was saying, I don't want to commit to another thing because he's a film producer and he's got a lot of stuff going on, traveling all over. But he was having this battle with his heart because his heart was telling him, you need to be a part of this. You need to be a part of this. we ended up getting on a one-on-one call later, and he shared that one of his best friends, his son, had committed suicide. And then 5 years later, he committed suicide. Like he just couldn't handle like the grief of that. And they had made him and his friend had done this documentary film about him and his career. He was a famous TV actor back in the day. And long story short, the family blocked them from releasing the film and moving forward with that. So super grateful. His name is Mark, and he is an absolute godsend, beautiful soul. And after connecting on a heart level, we've reached an agreement so he's going to support our film and make sure we get a good sales and distribution deal. And we don't, because I would probably sign something and it wouldn't be good.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is it done? Is the movie done?
We have 4 or 5 more interviews to complete. So likely those will be done by the end of January. And then we're in post-production full time for the next 4 months, 3-4 months.
That's incredible. It's been a journey, right?
We were just talking about that in the hallway.
I'm glad you're because I think that there's so many lessons that we can get from and that was also part of our call. I remember when you were kind of anxious and not happy about the timing, and because you had lined up a lot of different festivals, and if you didn't do it at a certain time, you wouldn't have this festival that you wanted. And now I look at you and you look so much more peaceful, even though it's not the timing you wanted. So it's kind of God messing up the plans, but knowing that he has a better way. And I think you can talk about that, how you felt and how you are now.
When we talked about being attached to the outcome, I think that's right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was very attached to an outcome.
I remember that call. I was in Morocco, right?
I was very attached to an outcome.
We had a full session on concept of being attached to the outcome.
I was in the hot seat that week, that's for sure.
That was a good session.
Yeah, it was.
But it's such a... I had this epiphany last night, because we always forget and get attached to the outcome again. You know, it happens to me over and over again. We have to remind I'm being too attached to the outcome. And when you're attached, you can like just tense. And it's almost, yesterday I realized it's almost the opposite of faith. Being attached. You cannot be both at the same time.
Interesting.
Totally agree with that.
Unpack that further.
If I'm attached to the outcome, I'm in my head and I'm trying to make it work and I'm almost forcing. Right. And then I'm in this energy it's an intense energy, and it's not pleasant. It's not playful. It's pushy. It's forceful. And it's not curious. It's very rigid because it can only be this way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But if I let go of that, if I'm believing in God and faith, if I'm attached to faith, right? When I say attached, if I'm connected to my faith, then I'm open, right? I'm curious. I'm playful. I'm letting it come to me. I'm receiving versus getting. And I'm trusting. And I'm having fun with it. And those energies just cannot coexist. I cannot be playful and forceful, right? I cannot be curious. Cannot be receiving and getting. Like if I'm receiving, I'm laid back. If I'm getting, I'm doing this. Like opposite energies, right? I realized this yesterday. And I feel, for me, I forget. But now I have references, right? And even as I say now I have references, I feel like now I'm attached to, I'm attached to the way of how to stay in faith.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's never ending. Whenever you figure something out, just you gotta let it go immediately, because you're attached to an instruction.
Yeah.
Again.
Or it's maybe an element of certainty. You know how to do this now, and you don't want to. And then I see that in what you're saying. The faith is, I got that covered. Now I know how to do it. And then to be also detached from this one time that was done this way, that could also happen in a different way.
Right.
It's kind of the surrender. I see the surrender, and to me, faith, when you say that, it's just planting the seed and knowing that it's it's going to grow. And usually what I've done so many times is because of either fear or, like you said, forcing the matter, and then you're killing the seed and it's not even growing because you're kind of because you're not seeing it, you're doing another activity that would counteract the fact that the seed is in the soil, and you want to maybe put a little bit more water and it's already perfect that way. And so I totally agree with you on the faith perspective and the remembrance that we must have every time, and kind of detach again ourselves from every time that we feel very anxious about the results or the outcome.
Yeah, there's a patience in that, right? The patience between the first time you water the seed and then stepping back and letting whatever time needs to elapse before you're supposed to water it again, or the anxiety of, the getting it, right? As you described, is keeping pouring water on it, and too much water kills it. Too much water will drown it, and then it doesn't grow. There's a really powerful distinction that you described, the receiving versus the getting. And I make this motion because it looks the same from the outside, right? Like if I have a gift or a present that I'm giving to you, you can receive that graciously. Or if I have a present that I'm just holding in my hand and then you come and take it, there's a different kind of energy. I'd love to hear more about the distinction between the two.
And that doesn't feel good to either of us, right? So if you're holding it and it's for me, but you're still holding it because, I don't know, whatever, you want to give it at your own time or however, and I just go and grab it, that doesn't feel good for you, even though you wanted to give it to me. And it doesn't feel good for me either because I grabbed it forcefully. I think it's subtle, but everyone feels it, right? Everyone feels when someone's taken from them versus, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it would feel for you, that I'm taking, right? And everyone can feel when they're giving and they're receiving. It's more of a...
And all that play is almost like with the universe or God. Because sometimes, if you look at like for me, I think what's very difficult is being patient. that's that
Give
part.
me my cake now.
That was another part of the conversation.
It's almost like, what am I doing now? Like, I'm just waiting. I'm doing nothing because I think we're in that society where we're expecting that things will happen so much faster. And then and I say that, and it's almost like sometimes I feel that I need to have this step taken care of so that I can move on to the next. So that moment of waiting, I think I'm auto coaching myself right now. Okay, so if you're waiting, then you can do other things and not wait until this. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like it's a contingent upon this to happen so that I can continue to do other things. And that's the impatience, that's the frustration, as opposed to just say, well, I guess there's nothing I can do really about this. I've done what I've needed to do. I just need to be patient. I have faith. And now I do another thing. And sometimes it could be what we need to do, even like in terms of your movie, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of very frustrating that you can say that you missed things that you wanted to have, but we both... And then I remember in the conversation, what we said is, who knows, maybe because of that, you're meeting someone in Berlin, as an example, and you're making such a huge impact that now the impact is even bigger. Because who are we to judge that, he needed to start on that step first?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. I was so wound up. I mean, from that call, and thank you guys for the wise words and the encouragement and the challenge. At that time, I was wound up. I was wound up because I was attached to that outcome, and I was getting frustrated. I was getting depressed. I was angry. There was all the just this. It was a mess. It was a mess. And,
we've been there,
and
all of us have been a mess. It was either you that week, and then it was me before, and then it's just, that's how I love how we're supporting each other.
But to your point about patience, had that not occurred, for various reasons, things didn't move as the rate of speed that I wanted to. If they did, I would have already been done with the production part of the film back in the summer. So we're 6 months removed from that. Had I been done with the production at that point, perhaps I would not have met Mark because I didn't have the margin of time. I would have been head down, focused on the edit, focused on, okay, what are the next steps in that space? And because I had this pump the brakes, be patient, kicking and screaming in my mess for a minute, and then my heroes come to my rescue, getting me out of the mud. But I meet Mark, and we have this great conversation, and now we're working together on probably one of the most critical components of the impact of how the film gets out. And I don't know what that because of that relationship is why I'm going to Berlin. He's like, hey, EFM, which is the European film market, he's like, there's 5 big film markets all throughout the year. This is where you want to be to meet the right people. So, had I had been done, had it gone the way I was hoping it would be, some of these things wouldn't have unfolded. So to your point.
Was that also that call that, we ask you, because I think one way to maybe surrender, to be patient, is to think about times when it didn't go our way. And now that we know what we know, if we could go back, would we still go through the hurdles and the obstacles? And I think at that call, you just said, yeah, I would still choose that after the fact. Like if you're like, wow, that was really awful obstacles. I suffered so much and being anxious.
True.
And now you're going back and knowing what you know now that you didn't know at that time. If you could say, yeah, would you prefer to avoid all these things or still go through it with the result that you have right now?
That was such a powerful, and still is a very powerful question.
Because I feel like the answer is almost always yes.
I would hope so. But you can ask
to be determined. We don't know.
Well, in that scenario, it was easy to answer yes. Because I realized, because of our container, it helped me to realize these are things that I had to go through to grow in order to be who I needed to be on the other side. I wouldn't be who I needed to be if I didn't go through those things. Now, where it gets dicey, where it gets emotionally dicey is like, okay, ask that same question about the loss of my son. Oh, okay, wait a minute. That's going to challenge some people. It challenges me. Like, would I want to go through that again?
That's what we were talking in the lobby, right?
Yeah.
Before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you admitted that maybe Judy wouldn't be a writer. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now. And I think that's not the thing I share with you is, for me, the only way that I can reconcile the fact that you lose someone is to just think that we are immortal.
Yeah.
And that was a game to be played. And that was a mission to be done. And he's done with his mission. And that he created 2 amazing parents that are on their mission to change the world. Through his work, he's already done that. Through now 2 other people and many more. And I guess we're still alive because we have a mission to play.
Yeah.
It's hard. I think like it's hard to, I think death for me is like one of, you know, what you're saying absolutely makes sense. I think death for me is like one of the hardest things to reconcile with, no matter how much I've learned or I've gained. I don't even want to use the word gained, or what lessons I've learned since the passing of, I don't know, like if I would still choose losing them, but yes, that's how life works. This morning I went to the park where Leo, my dog who passed, used to play, like his favorite part of the park. And I completely lost it there. And it's been a year and a half. And I still, like, as I was sitting there bawling, I was still, my mind was like, but where did he go? Like, it still doesn't make sense. Like, I get the concept, like, it's not a concept, it's a fact. We're all gonna die, but but it's still this question, like, but where did he go? You know, like, that doesn't make any sense to my, that's where faith comes in, right? Like, that's where you need a lot of faith.
Yeah. And whatever flavor that is, there's lots of different kinds of faith, and that's okay. And I remember when I was 8, when I first understood the concept of death, my grandmother passed, and I was still trying to get my mind around it. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I saw her in the casket, and then I was there when I'm like, they're putting her in the ground. Like, what is happening right now? Like, she looked like she was sleeping, and I expected her as a young child. I expected, well, she's just going to wake up. She's taking a nap. And then 3 weeks later, in the middle of the night, it hits me like a ton of bricks. And I just fear, like sheer utter terror gripped me in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. And I'm screaming my head off. And my parents come running in like, what? Like, they didn't know what's going on. And I'm like, and I'm yelling at the top of my lungs. Like, I wasn't yelling for them. I wasn't looking for their consolation or their, like, I was just wrestling with that concept of death and just screaming, I don't want to die. Just the uncertainty. Because I didn't
realize it can happen to you as well.
Yeah. And we didn't have any sort of faith, and like, there was no church or temple or anything that, that wasn't a thing in my house. And so I lived with that fear for a long time. And even my journey in faith has been over the last 33 years, but I heard it said once, it really helped me be more curious. As you mentioned, that the curiosity versus the control or that certainty. And what was said was about death was, imagine before you were born, you're in the uterus, you're in there for 9 months. You have the perfect environment. You get food, you're fed, you're warm, you're protected. Everything is perfect. And then all of a sudden, trauma. That you die to that environment, and you're born into this other existence. And when it was shared with me that way, I thought, okay, death is just another birth into a different form. And it made me curious, like, I wonder what that's like. I wonder what that is. Because we don't know.
No, we don't know. And it's another form of attachment, right? Like,
right.
The more you're attached here to your loved ones and your life and everything you've built and created and owned, the scarier it can be. It's just the Sarra show.
Is Sarra drinking vodka?
This is not vodka, by the way. This is water.
I'm like, that's either it's a really fancy water bottle, or she's got some vodka going on over here.
I got this when I was in Norway.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's an Australian company.
Absent, like 97%.
Right. Yeah.
You want some?
Maybe I would need that. Yeah. Thank you.
No, it's water. I haven't had a drink actually in a year, guys.
That's amazing.
Been sober for a year. No drinking, no smoking, no substances.
And what?
Are we continuing this conversation? Maybe we should.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the Sarra show. It's uncensored.
We're still rolling, right? Yeah, it looks like we're still rolling.
These are the best. Just don't die on us.
Okay.
What got you to that decision? Like what?
You know what? Alcohol started feeling like real poison in my body. First, my stomach couldn't handle it. So every time I drink, I just like have belly issues.
Let's talk about how much alcohol.
No.
I mean, that does it to
Really
everybody, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some
like 5, 6, 8
for
drinks.
2 days.
Yeah.
I've had some fun times in my 20s and early 30s, maybe late 30s. No, but I wasn't drinking much anyway.
Wait, what? 30s? You're older than 29? There's no way.
I just turned 29.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but I stopped connecting with alcohol a while ago. But I would still do it socially. 'Cause, you know, I had fun on it. My friends drink. We go out. We have fun. We'll drink. I wasn't like a heavy drinker. But even like 2-3 drinks started to hurt me.
Mm.
And I remember I was in New York and it was my birthday. And then I thought I was having a heart attack the next day.
Oh, wow.
We just had some champagne. And it lasted a few days. I was like, damn, this is the worst hangover I've ever had. You know? But then I realized it was not a heartburn, very similar to heart attack symptoms.
Wow. Yeah.
It feels, you know.
Right.
Obviously, that was a relief that I wasn't having heart attacks. But then I stopped drinking for a while. And then I had a few drinks like a couple of months later. And again, I didn't feel good at all. Like my body was just rejecting it really bad, you know? And I decided, you know what? I think I've had enough to drink for 5 lifetimes. I think I can.
I can relate. It's a great feeling when your body rejects. I mean, it makes it a lot easier to stop in a way, right?
Exactly.
It's just I'm not there yet, but I haven't drank for two weeks. I feel like now with the festivities, you know, we're December, it's a lot different. It's more difficult, but I know that I don't need much because I'm at the point where my body, you know, when you take a sip and you know that just that sip is too much and you just start in a new glass, I'm able to stop now. I just feel like my body is like, no, you're done, and which is perfect. I love that.
I don't even see the point of it anymore. Like, I don't miss it. I don't even think about it. I don't, you know, my friends give me a lot of shit. You know, they call me boring. They borderline shame me.
She has a whole new friend group now coming soon.
Right? Recently, my friends, they all went on a cruise last weekend. One of them was like, we're not inviting you because you'd probably just be by the pool reading a book. And I was like,
that sounds wonderful to me.
I was like, yeah, sounds
But she's got the bottle as if she's drinking. So
right? So I don't even think about it, you know? I feel like I'm more me. I'm high on life. Maybe I was drinking to allow myself to feel what was present. I'm hypersensitive, so I feel a lot. So I got used to blocking and not being with what's in my body or what's in the moment, you know? And the more I've worked on allowing that, which can be very tense for me, you know, because I feel a lot. So my body, I'll feel the vibrations. But since I've allowed my body to just feel and be in the moment and in the stillness, I'd rather not drink because that's much better. That's a better high. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I remember what stopped me drinking was I ended up in Cedars-Sinai Hospital from a DUI.
Ooh.
And I'm really grateful for that experience, even though I completely wrecked my car and wrecked some innocent bystanders' 4Runner, their brand new 4Runner, and I crashed into it and pushed it all the way up onto the sidewalk. And I don't remember any of it. I don't remember leaving the bar. It was a Taco Tuesday. And
it's a powerful
Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. And what goes better with tacos than tequila? And I ended up in the hospital at Cedars-Sinai, and they called Judy at like 3 a.m. and said, your husband's in the hospital. And she, you know, I'm not home. It's 3 a.m. I'm not home. She's worried. Nobody's called her. And Sydney was 2 weeks old.
Ooh.
Our youngest was 2 weeks old.
Gives a lot of hope for the fathers out there.
Yeah. I made some really dumb decisions, and so I started buying shots for everybody in the bar on Taco Tuesday. It's El Guapo on 3rd Street in Beverly Hills.
We should have tacos after this.
That sounds fantastic.
You're
I will not be drinking tequila with those tacos, though.
Maybe Francis will drink for all of us.
No, I'm starting on December 18th.
Awesome.
December 18th.
Yeah, I just decided. It
was funny because David Spade was there that night, and he had a table, and me being me, like I don't have any inhibitions about talking to anybody. I don't care who they are. I went up and started talking to him, and then buying their drinks too. So I was literally buying everybody's drinks in the entire place, from probably like 9 or 10 o'clock to midnight. It was a very expensive bar to have.
Talking Taco Tuesday.
And not only that, I was buying the shots, and I would buy 30, 40 shots of Patron silver.
Ooh.
and
Beverly Hills.
And I had the waitress, I said, just bring me the tray and I'll hand them out. That way you don't have to do anything. And she was like, are you sure? And I said, as long as I'm stable. If I start to get unstable, then stop giving them to me. But as long as I'm stable. And she was like, okay, because she was getting a fat tip, right? And I was just having fun. I was like, life of the party. And then I was the death of the party at the end. And I'm grateful that occurred. And here's why. Because going through alcohol school and all the things to get my license reinstated, and they force you to go through AA and some different things. What I learned was I wasn't an alcoholic, and I didn't have to have alcohol, but I was using that as a stirb. And in grief recovery, stirbs it's an acronym for basically self-medicating behavior. And what had happened 6 months prior to that is I had lost my grandmother. Or was it my grandmother? Yeah, my grandmother.
Wait, this is not when you were 8.
The other one. Years old. Yeah, no, this was the other one. Yeah, on my mom's side, and my grandfather had just passed a year before that, and they were the closest people that I was on the planet, closer than my mom. But going through those courses, I did this exercise, and it helped me. It was a timeline exercise that helped me to see the pattern of my behavior. Because I've never really looked at, like, pull back and just observe where was the pattern of my behavior over my life. I was 41, 42, something like that. Like, I wasn't young. And this exercise, basically, the timeline exercise is you draw a line from when you were born or when you can remember to today. And then you make tick marks up, from the line up, to positive memories that you can remember. Like things that, like my 5th birthday, I got like the Colonel Steve Austin $6 Million Man action figure, or whatever it was, right? And so you make all these tick marks up, and then you go back to the beginning, and then you make tick marks down to things that were traumatic or loss or something that caused grief. And then by looking at that, I was able to see the pattern. I was like, oh, something would happen 6 or 8 months later. And there's a psychology term where it's deferred, where you don't actually react until
deferred trauma or something.
Yeah, it's a deferred response. Okay. Where it's like 6 or 8 months. For me, the pattern was 6 or 8 months, and then I would just break down somehow.
You like act up, or you?
Yeah, I was either acting out. And in this case, I was just drinking with just absolutely no care of whatever the consequences were.
That's a pretty cool exercise to do.
It helped me to go, oh, there's a pattern here, which I'm going through life by default, not by design.
So what's happening in 6 months from now, right now? Do you know? Like, have you used it in the way that you're like, okay, I'm going through something, so
yes,
preparing myself for the next?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because what would happen was when I'd go through these losses, as 6 or 8 months, I would drink till I black out.
You drink during those 6 months, or once you hit the 6 months, you start drinking?
It's really I wasn't getting drunk, but then I would have this absolute bender, and it would be that once at that critical point. So guess what I didn't do when Jacob passed?
Drink.
Exactly. Because I knew the pattern, and I knew if I drink more than one, not 2, not 3, if I drink more than one, that's the slope it's.
I wonder if it's, because you asked, how do you use this pattern? I wonder, do you also then, because it's a deferred, right? Like, you don't feel what you're going through. You're escaping, right? You're avoiding the experience, the intensity of the experience is pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it's then, do you learn how to be in the experience, or is it so intense that your nervous system has created the system to avoid it just because it's too much so you don't break down? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I'll say this. Prior to that, I had a very low emotional IQ. My EQ was pretty low. I didn't have an environment when growing up of, well, let's just put it this way. Nobody said I love you in my household. There weren't any hugs. There was no affection. There was very little, if any, encouragement. And so it was very absent and very stoic in the sense of engaging with what I'm feeling or what emotions were coming up. And it wasn't until that where I was like, oh, then I started to do the work. That was just the first exercise that put me on that path. And then since then, it's been 18 years of really learning about how this works and not just reacting to things, trying to, that gap we were talking about earlier in the hallway, the observation between the feelings that are coming up and then how we're responding to it. I didn't even know there was a gap. That just didn't exist. And
nobody teaches that stuff. Like, right?
Right.
Don't teach that stuff to kids or
yeah.
in school. We teach geography.
Yeah.
That's what you were learning?
It's been very useful. My emotional
America.
intelligence.
Right. Where's Miami and how do I get here? All right. Yeah.
On the other side of the ocean.
Oh, and there's a time zone thing we got to consider too.
Earlier, when we were talking about, the attachment and wanting to act, things are not happening the way I planned for them. And now I'm not going to get what I want. Right. So we throw in a tantrum. Right. It's what we do. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, it got me to thinking, that's why I wanted to come back to it, is a lot of times what we say is like, we just got to sit down and find stillness and trust the process. Right. And like you said, you put enough water and now let it be, go do something else. But how often we also find ourselves in that place of, how do I know that I'm doing enough? Or if there's more for me to do in this situation, versus stepping back and trusting that, God or superpower or whatever you want to believe in is going to take, or I've done enough. How do I know that I need to do more or I've done enough? Right? Because I think that's what we struggle with. Because if we know, oh, you've done enough, just trust. In 2 weeks, something amazing is going to happen. Right? If I tell you that, you'll probably step back and chill. But I think the question becomes like, how do you know that you've done enough, or you don't need to go the extra mile or take another step or call another guy, right? Because there's also that school of, you need to call 100 people. You just called 50. You're not doing enough, right? And then there is the opposite, which is, you've done enough, now just chill. There's something else supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think you can answer that many ways. I'm thinking about, I'll give it a story. So of what happened this year, got married.
Congratulations.
Wait, what?
What? I'm realizing now what for people. It was a beautiful day. And I remember that actually, you know what? That's amazing. I saw so many 33s today. So it is actually a good sign. So for me, 33 is Jesus Christ. It's like the rebirth. It means a lot. And so I don't know why the 333 was always kind of showing up. And so that day when we went to court, this is like the manatee, and we want to celebrate, like, because that was for the green card process, and that we decided to do. And anyway, we're gonna celebrate now.
You're not marrying her just for a green card, so
no, it's not.
So
just
people
for,
know, you don't send immigration over.
No, it's cut.
That's a joke in my house because Judy, she's like, "Oh, I married you for my green card." I'm like, "Well, you already had your green card."
Let me rephrase. We knew we were committed to each other. We wanted to get married, and then since we knew that, we wanted to do it like legally, and then also doing it in a beautiful ceremony. So, and that's what's going to happen. But that day was very important for us because it's more than the legal aspect of it. It was a commitment of love, and it's very serious, and we did it with so much beautiful intention. So that day I decided that it would be cool that we get married at 3:33. So it's to answer your question about the forcing and everything, and I deconstructed the event because first of all, there was someone that was there for us taking some pictures and video, a friend of mine. And that's another story. But anyway, so we showed up that day, and how do you make that happen? We knew that we would leave around 3, be there maybe around 3:15, 3:20. You don't know how much time it's going to take to go inside the building. And then you go to inside the building, and we thought that we would meet the woman that was there 2 weeks before. And she said, "Oh my God, you guys are so beautiful. Power couple, I want to be with you." And now we realize that she's not there. So we're thinking, oh, that's kind of sad. Like that she was so excited for us. So we thought that would be great. So now they're asking us to go to a different station. We go, we do whatever we need to do. And then they're like, do you want to do it inside or outside? We're like, well, we're going to do it outside. It's a beautiful day. And then, the time is moving, but you don't know still if it's going to happen. Like this woman now comes, and that's Christine, the one that was so excited about us. And she was looking with these eyes so intensively, like, she knew she was committed to this journey, which was beautiful. And then I kind of said to her, it would be cool at 3:33. And I'm looking at the time, but at the same time, I'm forgetting about it, if that makes sense. And so, and then we do our thing, and it's over, and it's beautiful. And, now I'm looking at my phone, and I'm looking that there is something that's happening at 3:33. I was just wondering what it was. So essentially, like that time frame was good. It was at 3:33. But what's happening really at 3:33? So I'm looking at the phone, and I open it. There was a video, and she said, "I officially declare you husband and wife." And I was at 3:33.
Whoa.
So I'm like, wow. So how did this happen? Because you're in the movie. How difficult would it have been that you say, okay, we need the scene, and you come in. You go inside the building. Oh, you gotta wait. Oh, this woman is not there. You wait outside. Okay, whoa. Okay, Christine, it's your time. You do the speech, and it's almost impossible.
Exactly.
It's impossible because to maintain like not being in a hurry and say, okay, let's go, we got to do it. And then to arrive at that moment, declaration at that day. And so for me, I thought a little bit about that question. How do you manifest? Because so I think that the times where I manifested the most was when I kind of casually said, would it be nice if this thing is happening? And being completely detached and knowing full well that at the end, the outcome is what? Like the outcome is that I'm married and I'm in love. That's the most beautiful thing. And so it doesn't really matter if it doesn't happen at 3:33, but it's a cool thing if it happens. So I think in that there's the faith that it doesn't matter if it doesn't happen, because if it doesn't happen, maybe something better is going to show up. The outcome is there anyway, so you're getting married. And you kind of forget about it. So you have no worry. You're not forcing. You're not looking at your time all the time. I was not looking at my watch. I mean, I was just like, would it be cool? And it was such a beautiful moment, because that day that there was actually a kind of a little bit like Jesus Christ. There was someone that passed away, and it was a cortege that was just passing by. The traffic was stopped. So people were witnessing. It was almost like our crew, because both of our parents were not there. And so the crew was watching. And then when it was done, everyone's clapping. Congratulations, guys. The traffic was basically dead, everyone. And then you saw the passing of this man or woman. So there was a birth, a death, rebirth, and it all happened at that time. So, and I reflected on how you create that way. And I think there's a part of it is really sending an intention. Like you have a direction, that's what you want. You have a clear vision of what you want. at the same time you have faith that it doesn't really matter. You're gonna be good no matter what. And then you're being detached, and you enjoy your time while you're kind of waiting for it, if that makes sense. So for me, so to answer your question, how do you know where to force and not? I think the quote that came in my mind was infinite patience bring immediate results. And I think it's from The Alchemist.
Oh, right. Yep.
So when you're in that space that I'm infinitely patient, it doesn't matter. Like, I know it's going to happen. I enjoy my life anyway. Then things are just happening because you're almost living from the outcome. And it's done in your mind and you're happy. You're enjoying your life. I think it's when we kind of doubt that it's might not happen, that we're now wanting to put more calls and everything, If you really trust yourself and you know it happens, like to me, like the difficulty in the question is, I've been in sales, so do you do more calls? Do you feel like you're slacking because you've done 50 calls, but now maybe you should do 100? But if you really know yourself and you're really tired and you feel you've done your best, like you just need to rest. Because you know you've done your best and it's fine. It's already 5, whatever it is. Or you're inspired to do something else. And that inspiration, that frequency that elevates now brings so much more possibilities.
Right.
Could be you go on the beach and that's the call that you needed to enroll someone into whatever you wanted to enroll. So that would be a long
That's
answer.
A powerful, it's a long answer filled with gold if you're listening carefully. Because being patient in the process is what I heard. And that was a very powerful question about how do you know if you've done enough or if you need to do more. I listened to your story and you felt it, right? You had the thought, ooh, that'd be cool. 3:33 when we do the thing. You felt it and then you spoke it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And I think
your words created that.
Yeah. And I took some action. And so like, if you ask yourself, I didn't leave the house at 3:25,
right.
There's a,
right.
there's a possibility that, that would be within the time frame. So I think there's part of an action that, you have your vision and, if you're consistent with your vision, you're going to do some action. You can't expect to have necessarily something that's going to happen like that
By staying in bed.
Magic is possible. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Staying in bed. So there are some actions that are required. And then
there's another part of that. There's some other gold in there too, in that story. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about receiving versus taking. And you illustrated it in a great way. Just the energy, as you mentioned earlier, the energy is different.
Yeah.
It feels different. The energy that you showed up with, you thought it, felt it, created it, spoke it, and then let it be, right?
Yeah, I was not trying to say, guys, it's 3:22 right now. Let's go. We had 11 minutes left.
Yeah, and the energy of that patience and the peace, right? The peace of that, which I was just looking at the energy chart of the different emotions. And what was surprising to me was the chart that I was looking at had that level of peace above the frequency of love. And I thought, whoa, because typically we think, and they've measured different things and people have different charts, whatever. But in that particular one, it was like that peace had one of the highest level of frequencies, and that highest frequency, had you done the previous, like, oh, we're trying to get this time and we got it, and all that nervous energy is not a peaceful frequency, right? Like you mentioned earlier, the getting or the taking, though there's a transaction of something that you might desire that's occurring, the energy is different, right? The energy that you showed up with is different. And I think that also goes back to the question of when do you know is enough? I think in your heart, your being, in your being.
If you're connected.
Yeah.
But if you're too busy chasing, too attached to that outcome, you're like thirsty for it. If you're coming from a place of lack, right? Because the other thing that Francis said that was amazing is like the outcome. You operating from a place of it already happened. You're coming from a place of the outcome. Then you're at ease with it, right? You operate from a place of abundance, not lack. You know it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and what it inspired me when you say that, it's almost like whatever the outcome is, let's say sales, just to use an example. So I think the element of friction could be timing for sales, especially for people that have a quota on a certain time, right? So because if you don't have any quota, it doesn't really matter because in a certain way. So I'm thinking about in my sales career, the biggest friction was getting the bonus and a commission and at a certain time. If you remove that and you're going from the element of, I know my sales are done. I just don't know where it's coming from. So now I think with that piece of knowing that it's already done, it allows more of who's going to be the lucky person to receive my service and my products because I know it's going to help them. So now my conversations are a lot different because now I'm serving. I'm not trying to convince or say this is the best thing. Now it's the time you got to buy. I'm looking for a promotion or anything. But if I know it's done, and I would say that's where you can even remove the timing equation. And I don't have the answer, but I would assume that when you're being that person that's peaceful and that it's done with faith, then that your quota is going to be done and everything's because now you're being of service, you're helping, you're having way more fun also, you're curious, like you said, you're listening to what the people want and you're like, oh, that's not you, it's fine. And just because you're so helpful, they might say, well, but I know someone that would probably be interested, not me. And then when you have this energy of forcing too much, like people are they're repulsed and they're like, nah, I don't like that guy. So yeah, that element of peace is a big one, I think, and the faith and I think for me the biggest friction is the timing. That's your story and that's the story of many people. What if we actually remove that time equation and we live from that it's already done? I think I shared with you The Chosen. I started to watch The Chosen, the show. And to me, the biggest, I think there's so many great examples of faith in that. And the biggest moment for me was when the Roman kind of said, just say the word and I know it's done. Like he didn't even have him to come to his place. Right. To say, he just knew. Like that level of faith, if you can act from that, didn't need to, like he actually didn't go home and see, oh, he's healed and I'm going to go buy the food to celebrate after. He was buying all the food, the gifts, the toys for his son that he knew he's healed. He comes home, the woman is like, you're not going to believe what happened. He's like, I already know.
Living in that frequency.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. It's really because I believe also our mind, like the universe is mental, or we are creators, we can do so much, and that's frequency. So if you're already acting that it's already done. Yeah. Amazing Academy Award documentary. It's done. Like how much more fun is possible knowing that that's already happened.
Right. Yeah. I got the chills. So one of the things that I enjoy doing is leveraging technology and serving people. And so I use an AI tool and I went back 5 to 7 years on YouTube and looked up all the videos of the Oscar shows where the feature documentary was announced. Now, I kind of cheat a little because I worked for the Oscars for 4 years, so I've been in that room.
You can tweak the results.
And I can't do that. I can't do that. But I know how everything works.
Peaceful,
I know how everything works in the background. But I've actually sat in that room during the show, so I know what it feels like
to win.
I know what it feels like in that space, in that moment, the euphoria on the red carpet and all of the things. So it wasn't a far stretch, but I took AI and I took the actors that made the announcement for the winners for the last 5 or 7 years. And I used an AI tool to clone their voice. And I cloned their voice. And then I put in our film with our producers as the winner. And I played it back and I'm like, oh, this is super cool, right? I've got the idea of the vision in my mind. And I'm like, ooh, this is cool. And then I thought, but I wasn't like, my nervous system wasn't fully lit up. It was like maybe 50% lit up. And then I thought, who's my favorite actor that if read this, I would just lose everything. And I'm like, Robert Downey Jr. Let's go.
Robert, be ready.
So, and there's no reason for him to be reading that particular.
You never know.
Exactly. But just knowing behind the scenes and how they pick the different the people that are announcing the different winners and whatnot. But I didn't care. I was like, I'm playing. I'm having fun. I'm being curious. So I cloned his voice and then I had him read it. And I closed my eyes when I pushed play. And I'm sitting in the 18th row, house right, with 5 other people that are producers of the film, tuxedos, the whole everything. And I'm hearing him read our film announcing that we were winning. And I kid you not, every nerve in my being just, I mean, and I've taken a lot of drugs back in the day. It was not, I'm telling you, the euphoria of that moment was that. It was amazing.
The only challenge is to be surprised when it's going to happen.
Right.
It happens so many times.
Right. I got to put on my best acting face.
I already knew it.
Right. Yeah. There was a word that you shared that really popped out for me in what you were sharing, and it was the word fun. Because in the grind, and I appreciate you pulling that, there was a sign up on the wall earlier that said hustle. And Sarah was like, nope, we're not about the hustle culture. And
I don't like I hustled in my life.
Same.
I fought in my life.
Yeah.
There's two words I no longer like.
Yeah.
3, actually. I don't like that I'm called a fighter, or that I'm even in the energy of having to fight for something or someone or anything. The hustle thing. I feel like I hustled in my life, especially in my corporate world time. And then the other one was to be called strong. I don't want to be called strong. I don't want to be strong. So these are 3 words that I used to almost live by, to kind of like get what I wanted to get or get where I wanted to get. I do come from a family of like hustling, do more and you could do it, and which has served me, but it's not me. I believe there's a better way for me. I'm not saying for everyone else. So no hustle here.
And it feels like and I know there's some people that they hustle and that's fun for them, or they've defined what fun is by hustling. But that word fun really is like jumping out. And I think about when the Trusted Advisor Group, when Riche put us together in the beginning, he said it's a game. What is your game that you are creating? And then when we're playing a game, why do we play games? Because they're fun in the simplest form of what it is. And when you said that, I was like, oh, you made it fun. Not only was your wedding experience magical, the commitment, the deep sense of love, there was an element of lightheartedness and fun in it, watching it all come together.
Actually, you're right. Thank you for pointing that out, because I remember I was really more curious and just said, would it be cool? And at the same time, just releasing and just very curious, almost like a little kid, Hey, that would be cool. That would be cool. And it had happened. And that's what I like about our conversations every time, because I think for me, thank you for pointing that word. That's how I want to live 2025, with way more fun. And just bring the energy up. And, last weekend, I just did improv and it was amazing. It was fun. And I'm going to do the second level, and it's so fun. to just express yourself.
Do you have a video of this?
Not sure. Not
Oh,
sure.
come
No,
on.
seriously. Maybe.
It's like, I don't
But
want to
it was
share it.
not-
I'm not sure if there's a video or not.
I was licking stamp. That's what I was doing on one stamp and exchanging it. Anyway, another story. But and to incorporate fun in business.
Yeah.
You know, I think and enrolling, because I think that's that again. Thanks to the chosen, different things happen. The faith, because if you know it's already done, there's no more worry.
Then you can have fun, right?
Yeah.
Because isn't that like I was unpacking fun for me a while back, and I realized I had this belief from young childhood of you can't have fun, you can't play until you've done your homework, right? You can't have fun until you deserve it, until you've done X, Y, and Z, until you've been serious, right? And I've lived by that for so long to like, have I done enough, right? Now that I'm an adult, have I done it? Do I deserve that fun yet? I feel like in the culture of hustling, that's why you see everyone drinking on a Friday night. Like, oh, now we deserve to get wasted.
Because they survived Monday through Friday
I've worked
work.
my ass off all week, so now I deserve to have fun.
Right.
So I had to get rid of that. The conditioning, like to fulfill a condition before I can have fun.
Thank you for unpacking that, because now I feel there's so many people present in spirit for our podcast. One of my mentor at Xerox when I was working there, his name was Bob Smith. This guy with a radio voice, old man, almost like a grandpa. And we're in a boot camp for sales. And at the end, he's like, guys, I'm going to share with you the 7 things that you need to do in order to be great salespeople. He's naming them, and I'm taking notes. Yeah. I don't know if you know, but I'm always taking notes during our calls. So I'm taking notes. My wife's gonna laugh because she knows I've got plenty of notes. And number 7, he's like, and the most important of all, have fun. Have fun, guys. And it just took us by surprise. But I mean, it was, and he's right. Like that was the most important thing, having fun. What if you just do everything with having fun? You go see your client. Hey, let's have some fun to discover if there's a fit between each other. Like let's. Oh, cool. Yes. Oh, I got someone that I can offer you. Share with you and have a reference. There's so much more possibilities, I think, in that. Because at the end, if you put yourself in the shoe of a client or a customer, or for everything that we consume. Would you rather go to a place where you have fun every time? Get your coffee, even if it takes you 5 more minutes to go get it, or more, little detour, but they're going to remember your name. You're going to have fun. You're going to get out of this place with more energy. I would even spend, I guess, 10, 15 minutes for that of extra traveling time to go get my coffee, know that. And I guess that's what, I know for me, for my hairdresser, like I'm willing to drive an hour for whatever reason, but it's not for whatever reason. He's doing a good job and I have fun. I have fun with this guy,
Yeah.
And now that I'm thinking of all my hairdresser of all the cities that I lived, they were all fun guys. Always had a blast, always had jokes, and you come out of it and that's why you come back.
Yeah.
A couple of days ago, I was taking a yoga class, and I was very conscious of this moment of getting into a pose that's hard to get into.
Which pose was it?
It was handstand pose.
Okay.
And it's a struggle for me to get into that pose. And so because we're going to do hard things, right? It's not about avoiding to do something hard. But before, my self-talk would be like, come on, you could do it. Just push yourself, go use a wall, But the pushing, right? Like just the pushing, you can do it. That would be my self-talk. And then I'll get up there and it felt fine, And then this time I noticed I was trying to get into the pose and my self-talk was very different. My self-talk was very kind. you know, you could do it if you want to. It's fine. You know, it wasn't the harsh,
Mm.
the, but it was like, it was very, very kind. I'm curious, if I put more weight on this hand, how would that feel? What if you try it this way? Just use a wall. It's okay. Maybe you don't want to get up there today. And I became aware of the self talk, and it was like, wow, this is incredible. All this work, all this inner work and everything, it does pay off. The self talk does change. I didn't try to create that self talk in the moment. It just what happened. It just kicked in, and I noticed it. And I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. It was a big winning moment for me.
When I'm hearing in that, like I
And it was
heard,
fun.
yeah,
It was fun. That's why it reminded me of that, because it was fun to do it that way. It wasn't pushy or hustly.
and it took you time to get to that level. I think like the inner talk to be automatic and natural, that you would be more kind to yourself. There's something that I heard 2 days ago for me that was a good distinction. Person said there's a difference between knowing about something and knowing it. And so I think that I see the reason why you became very kind to yourself is for the heart, like the inner work that you did, and repeat and repeat and repeat to yourself, so that it became automatic. So that's also, I think, something that I pay more attention is applying what we learn, and applying the insights that we hear, because there's so much information everywhere that it's not enough now to just know about something. We gotta know it, and the only way to know it is to apply it. And so I think I would assume that it took you time to get to that level of kindness.
Yeah, definitely. Because my self talk was not kind at all. It was very, very highly critical and never enough, no matter how much you do. So, yeah, it did take a while to get there, for it to be that way, not for me to catch myself and be with it and transform it, just for it to be there. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it's happening more and more, which is great. And I'm listening more and more to my intuition and to the signs. Last night, I was, it was full moon, and I was listening to some chanting. And then I felt like singing, and then I went to my bedroom and I just put it on full on, and I just started chanting with that song that I never heard before. And I remember when I first started the whole spiritual path, I would hear people like, when I started in Asia, I would hear people like chanting mantras and stuff, and I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What are you guys saying?
Filled with judgment.
But, oh my God, it's full of judgment. I mean,
now she's chanting.
Imagine this person who was like full on living in LA, working in corporate world, and then all of a sudden she's in Asia in a temple. People who chanting Om Mani Padme Om, and you're like, what are you guys saying, To yesterday being the person who was like full on chanting loudly, my boyfriend was in the living room, and when I came out after an hour of chanting,
Oh my.
an hour of chanting. Mind you, I chanted so much that I felt this energy go all the way up, and then I puked.
Wow.
Yeah. So it unlocked something that now I'm like, I woke up chanting again. But I left, and then I left the room, and so being in denial, I was just like, hey, babe, I just walk into the kitchen. He's like, you sing really beautifully. I was like, you could hear me? And he's like, of course, you're singing so loud, But I don't know why I brought this up.
Well, I think it's the
fun. Yes,
Yeah.
fun. Thank you. Our dear friend over there reminded me.
thank you.
Thank you. But it's so, I was saying is like listening to that intuition and following and being okay with not what they're going to think or how they're going to judge me, but this is what I feel right now, and this is what I need to do, and I'm going to do it. And I don't care what anyone else thinks.
That made me think of, I've seen that at a friend's place. It was the dance as if nobody's watching. And I thought that should be dance as if everybody's watching. Like there's something unconscious in that. If nobody's watching, you can dance now. I think the full expression is dance as if everyone's watching. Who cares? You know, because to me, that's the freedom is, like you said, singing. If you need to sing, you sing. Wow, I'm just thinking of my grandma right now. I think she was, I heard a story, apparently she was just dancing in the Costco or something. And she removed part of her bra, I think is, you know, like without showing anything, but my godfather was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just hot. Like, I just need to remove that. So I think there's like some sort of but she doesn't care. And, you know, when you think about it, it's like, wow, who cares? You know, like being fully self-expressed for me is the best expression of aliveness, of freedom, because that's a game.
Yeah, just the freedom of being fully expressed, whether it's song or dance. I pointed that out to Judy at the first event. I said, you know what made this event magical? Because there's a lot of things that didn't go right that were supposed to go right, that in the grand scheme of things weren't supposed to go right. I won't unpack that any further than that. But I said, do you know what made it really magical? And she was like, what? And I said, the dancing. If you remember, she had these dance breaks. There was dancing in the beginning of it. There was dancing after coming back from lunch, because she's a dancer by trade. That's what she did in her early career. And now I'm like, oh, for me, you know, white man can't jump, white man can't dance. And so I was like, I may have been able to do the worm back in the day when my back was
That's a belief. I want to stop you.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
I used to believe.
starts.
Yeah, here it comes.
But it's true, right? Look, I had a teacher who told me when I was like 5, 6, don't sing. You can't sing. And I believed it till last night. You know, when my boyfriend said, you're a great singer. Maybe he just said that because he's nice, but I didn't care. The point is I didn't care.
Right.
And as you guys know, I lost my voice for a year. I couldn't speak. So I believe there's something deep there in terms of expressing through the voice or healing through the voice or something around, even doing this podcast, right? It's all about the voice and speaking and sharing
and singing. Are you going to cue up some music? And
singing.
we're going to get some song right here in this episode.
I'm ready.
But my point is, when you just said white man can't dance, that's not true. Yeah, anybody can dance.
Sure. Well, when I dance, it looks like Bill Cosby, so we'll just leave it there.
Oh, but it's
you know,
Yeah.
it's movement. I bet you, Eric.
Yeah, it's good times.
If you take dance classes for a year, you think you still won't be a good dancer?
Yeah, it depends on the type of dance.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Francis?
On the spot right now. Yeah, I see your point. I think, we can explore that even further into what else do we think that we can't do something. Because
conditioning, age.
Well, yeah. You know, improv, for example, what I've learned is that, I mean, the people that are very, very good at improv, the only reason why they're good at is because they've done it so many times.
Practice.
I mean,
repetition.
What's difficult with improv is that you got to come up with some scenarios in your head of who, what, and where. And one time, just before the showcase, we decided the members to gather at one place and just play. And there was a game where we had to play different characters, and we were 4 people playing different characters. And then you could see a character that someone is playing. You're thinking, oh, that's a good one. I can pick that up. And then you play different characters. So the point is that you're building a bank of experience that you can pick up from. And now when you're performing, only because you practiced, now you're going into, oh, I can do this. I can do that one. I can do the old man. I can do the cowboy. I can do the whatever.
The radio announcer, Sunday, monster truck jam at the stadium. Let's go.
French person.
The bagger. The bagger has
and
come back.
Baguette for a friend listening. So I think it's just to show that it's not true and that we cannot say that we cannot do something. We only need to practice. That's all it is. And then to the point of really being okay with failure. I think Sarah Blakely said it so well. It's, where her father was always asking her after every day, where did you fail at today? So the relationship of failure was very different from many of us, which I think is conditioning based on schooling system. They don't really reward the effort or the journey, the progress, but more the end result. So going back full circle with attachment to the outcome, like you're going to be graded as A, B, or C, not knowing that maybe for the full 2 weeks beforehand, you were acting like an A, but you went to the exam, you were nervous, and now you have a C or F. But that's not defining who you are.
Right.
So that relationship with failure, and again, like not caring about what people think or of you when you sing or you express yourself. So to me, that's a big thing, is the repetition, the not caring about failure, embracing it, knowing that actually it's required. It's a required practice so that you can be very good at.
It's interesting that you mentioned the relationship you have with failure. 'Cause isn't everything the relationship you have with something, right? Like the relationship you have with hard times, the relationship you have with a fight, right? You might have a fight with someone and be like, that means a fight means we're over, right? That's the relationship.
Being in my bathroom, my own space, it's over.
We're not going there. But I feel like it's all the relationship you have. Like, oh my God, we're going through bad times. Bad times are bad. The relationship I have with bad times is that bad times are bad.
Right.
Right? Versus I can have a relationship with bad times as in they're just going to help us get better. Right? I feel like there's a key there that if we change that relationship, instead of going into it, working on the relationship I have with this concept, it would change. It changes everything.
That's a very powerful distinction. And I do want to back up just a second and go, when you were recognizing the self-talk and Francis acknowledging you for the work that you've done to get to that more positive self-talk, which is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And there's another distinction in there that's very subtle that I want people to start to be aware of, is the awareness. You recognized in that moment that there was a difference, but you were observing the difference, right? You weren't just having the self-talk. You were like, oh, you had this space that was far enough away. And I think about it in camera terms. Being a filmmaker, I'm dealing with cameras, right? And if something you're too close to, you can't see it, it's blurry. But when you have a little bit of a space, then you can bring that into focus and you can see it. And that little bit of space is what I'm observing, your observation of is that little bit of space takes a whole nother level of mastery. And I've noticed that in you many times, and you might, because you've mastered that skill and that's showing up for you, and you coach other people on that and making those observations, even in the shift that you're talking about with hard times, right? Have an awareness, like, I have this relationship and I'm shifting that relationship. That's magical. There's something very special about that. And you have that too. I see that in you. And I know, because you guys have poured into me from that observation place. And I think that is a major element that I want to acknowledge both of you for, is the lifetime of work that you've done, the experiences that you've had, the way that you continue to pour into yourselves, and the mastery of that awareness is what allows you to master being. And I know those are a lot of words, and some people might have to unpack some of that, but
I appreciate you saying that. I fully receive it. And just by you saying that means you have it too, right? You master it as well, just from what you just said. Because you had the awareness to even see all of this and take the time to pause and actually, which is something that you're so masterful as, right? Like the acknowledgement.
Acknowledge king,
You,
for sure.
you pause us and, because like we go into like all this amazing, we get curious and we get excited and we get passionate and we're always all talking, the three of us. And on top of it, what you do exceptionally is pausing us to be like, hey, just take the time to bathe in this moment, in what was just created and in who you are, and recreating us this way every time.
Master of slow down and acknowledgement. Because
Yeah.
you hear a lot of the distinctions and everything that we say.
Yeah, you're very powerful. And your level of awareness is that high. To pause us and be like, hey guys, you need to be acknowledged with, you know what I mean? You don't just kind of like let
He's
it
the camera guy. He's like, did you see what I saw?
Right? That's
This is
exactly
amazing.
right.
This is a great shot.
And I come from a place of just gratitude and appreciation
Oh, we
because I
can
feel like
it.
I won the lottery every month when we get together on these calls, and because they're so powerful, the environment that we've created of safety and of vulnerability and authenticity and being able to be real. And like, I'm excited that we're doing this because I know more people are going to see what I get to see on a regular, and the value it's literally better than winning the lottery.
And I feel like we've done it so many times now that it's just become that space that you were talking about, going to the barbershop and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So it feels that way, right? Like we might go over, but we don't care because we're having fun.
I have a question about what you said to me, which I think it was a powerful question. Is we're in relationships of to something and everything. So if we are, the question I have is, let's say you have a relationship with something and you feel like it's a bad relationship. How do you change that? And it could be a relationship with your job, with your financial situation, or whatever happened, relationship. Like, so we are in relationship with everything. How do you change that? Or how has been your experience to transcend that?
For example, a job. I think what you leave in when you leave a job is what you were feeling while being at that job. If you're able to sit with what you're feeling at that job, because you're not leaving the job itself. The job is neutral, but it's what you feel while you're doing that job that you're trying to escape or leave. It's the same with a person. It's the same with anything. All these are relationships, right? So if you're feeling anxious at this job, or you're feeling not valued, right? Or if you can change, you can be with those feelings and change that relationship with the job based on the feelings if you're able to detect what the feelings are.
So let's say you have this awareness of knowing how you feel about something, whatever the subject is. How do you transform this feeling or your relationship with that?
I think for me, my experience, the first step is to be with it, right? So if I'm feeling something, what am I telling myself that's making me feel that way, right?
So it's going to an I am statement, a way of being. So if you, that's what I'm hearing when you say that. So let's say the job situation, you say what was the feeling you mentioned as an example?
Maybe you're anxious. Maybe you don't feel valued. Maybe you don't feel good enough, because that's what it is at the end of the day.
Exactly. So
they're not valuing me. I'm not good enough. Because if they're not valuing you and you know you're good, it's not gonna affect you.
So to slow that down, that was a feeling of I'm not feeling valued, which actually is just like I am not valued. That's the pain, because everything was neutral, like you said. So now the question after that is to say, is this really true that I'm not valued? And then if the answer is most probably not, because that's invented and created, then we change this, that has nothing to do with my own value, that my boss didn't acknowledge or whatever it was, because I am valued, then most probably the feeling you have about your job will change. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you're coming at it from a place of I'm not good enough, you might change the job or the boss. Eventually you'll fall into the same situation, at another job. I think there's something really powerful at being able to be with whatever is present. It can get intense and it can get really tough, but being in, because I think that's where my power is. I'm not saying me individual, but as a human, for everybody, to be able to sit with whatever is arising within me and be with it and see it for what it is, then I can transform it. A lot of people try and transform first, right? They skip to like, okay, I'm not good enough. I'm just going to start telling myself I am good enough, right? But it's not until you have the capacity of like, that's what I was talking about earlier, that kindness. Oh, I am feeling I'm not good enough. Okay. That's the relationship. I'm going to be kind to the part of me that's feeling not good enough, right? I'm not trying to escape it or fight it or get rid of it. The part of me, I'm not good enough. I can be gentle with that. I can be kind to that. That's the relationship.
Right.
I can be in it. I'm not trying to get rid of it. A lot of times we just try to get rid of it. I don't want to feel this way anymore, so I'm here, But I'm really here. Like, it's such a depth of like sitting so deep in the seat of the self that you are with that part and you seeing it. And no matter how ugly or sad or destructive it might look, you allowing it to exist. I think that's the relationship part that you're talking about. It's the relationship to, so now we're talking about the relationship to that. So it's a deeper layer. It's the relationship to the statement, I'm good enough. What is your relationship to the statement, I am not good enough, to that part of yourself?
And there's another word that we've been throwing around a bit, and it's curiosity. Right? What's coming up is being curious. And again, it's that space. You have to have that space of awareness to go, oh, I'm not feeling valued. There's this angst or this internal dialogue or judgment on whatever's occurring, but being curious on why I'm feeling like these feelings are coming up about it. It's interesting that we're on this subject of feeling valued in the workspace. And I remember coming to this new job, and the first year I felt like I was a rock star. I felt like everyone knew my name. I felt valued. They're like, yeah, you're going to help us, explode into this new area that we see value in it and we want to really explore it. And you're the guy. And I was feeling like awesome. I'm like, this is the first time I've gotten that kind of reception in a corporate space. And as time wore on, it became very clear that I was checking off a box. And I navigated the feelings of, I'm feeling extremely valued. 2 years in, I'm just another guy in the seat, pushing buttons, doing a thing, because it became clear to me that in the overall scheme of what was happening in the organization, that this one component wasn't valued enough to put budget behind beyond me sitting in that seat. And I really had to wrestle with, does it have anything to do with me? Or is it that this is checking a box for somebody for the organization? And is this the best use of my time? And so I had to do some analysis of why at one point I was feeling like this rock star, and then now not so much. Now, like if I wasn't there, it wouldn't matter. And then COVID happened, and then my role became the most important role in the organization. And then the swing, that emotional swing came back. Like, oh, you're holding it down because of what you're doing. And the gratitude started pouring in. And I thought, this is interesting. Just observing that circumstantially things are different. So now I'm treated different. And then I was able to separate enough from it, going, this has nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. This is just how they want to run this particular part of the organization. And then I had to get resolved that, okay, that's great. It doesn't have anything to do with whether I'm doing a stellar job or not a good job, because I was doing exactly, I was exceeding at what I was responsible for, and actually grew it beyond what the expectations were. And here was another interesting component of that. There weren't any expectations. Usually when you're in a corporate scenario, like you mentioned earlier in sales, there's targets, there's goals, there's bonuses, there's things that you need to hit in order to be quote unquote successful. I was the first couple of years in that space, it was a struggle because I'm used to that kind of structure. And then it was like, we're not trying to grow this to a certain audience size or a certain revenue base, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do that anyway, because that's just who I am. And even though I grew it from $39,000 a year of revenue when I first got there to over $2.5 million when I left in a 5-year span, that's a significant growth metric. I don't know what the percentages are, but yet the value that I felt didn't shift as I'm reporting these different numbers. Grew the audience from less than 3,000 to, I think it was over 100,000 average per month when I left. That's a significant, 100,000 people a month tuning in to watch the thing.
Those sound very transactional relationships to me.
It was.
Like you were talking, at first I felt values because I was given this, so they gave me that.
Yeah.
Right. So I translated that as I'm valued.
Right.
Right. Or good enough, or I'm better than, or whatever it is, or I'm unique, or I make a difference, or however.
Yeah.
And then they took that away from me. And then those translations also disappeared. Then I'm not feeling as good about myself anymore. And then you get to the awareness yourself. And then COVID hit. And then I became again.
And then I was valued again.
And right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, it's
Actually, you felt valued, like because you're always valued, right? I guess that's what we're saying.
Right. Yeah.
It's
the emotional ride of it.
emotional, right?
The emotional ride of it, and what I felt, and as to get back to the point is that being curious. I was curious on why I felt this way and why I didn't feel this way in the same environment. And then I'm feeling it, and it was, and I realized it had nothing to do with me. And it was a great exercise. I was extremely grateful for going through that, because it allowed me to go, okay, where is my true value in and of myself? How do I perceive my own value in and of myself outside the scope of what the environment is?
I was going to say that relationship piece that we're talking about is, right, there's the situation, and then there's how I relate to it, right? Like, it's kind of like how I relate to it makes it either good or bad. Scares my nervous system or relaxes my nervous system. But the fight in itself can still be neutral, as long as like there are no consequences, right? Like as long as when I say fighting, we're arguing over something stupid, right? Like we're not insulting each other. It's not a physical, there's no violence, but we're arguing over something. It doesn't feel good. The fact that that's happening, it's not a bad thing.
What I'm hearing in that for me is two things. One, either let external circumstances dictate how we feel, act, and the results ultimately. And the other thing is I'm hearing life is a direct reflection of the judgments that we have about ourselves. So when you have two people fighting, it's just two people having judgment about themselves fighting against each other. Trying to say I'm good and I'm not alone, and then the other person's just the perfect mirror, and that's exactly what's happening. It's almost like we're very, very selfish. We don't even care about the other person. We just want to make sure that our own protection of our own ego is I'm loved and I'm valued and I'm honored and respected. But if I feel like I'm not honored and respected, I'm starting to be agitated and frustrated, and then I prove my point. So because I know that for me, this year has been a huge moment of growth in relationships. And what I saw is what I call the source code, like judgment. Like at the source, there's a judgment that starts with I am. And whatever is after I am is exactly what's going to make me happy or sad or frustrated. And the time that I'm triggered are always the same judgments. Same,
like three or four that repeat themselves.
Like 5 lines of codes that you can always relate back to it. It's like, again, that was I'm not honored, I'm ignored, I'm not respected,
I'm not enough,
you know. And even with my coach last week, like we just cleared something, and it was about, and it's so clear that I don't even remember the judgment, but my new I am statement or my new manifesto source code is I am honored and I'm respected. And so if I'm living from that place of I am honored and respected, even if somebody spit in my face or even if someone says something really bad to me, if I know deep down that I'm honored and respected, then it doesn't trigger me and it doesn't really matter. And I would even think that even if on the outside you see that someone did in fact disrespect you or did not honor you, with time I would think and assume that if I'm always feeling respected and honored, actually chances are that people will honor me more and respect me more. There will be an energy that when I enter, it's like, oh, I'm going to respect this guy or I'm going to honor this guy because I do it for myself first. So I'm increasing the chances of that. And if somebody is not respecting me or honoring me, then it doesn't even matter, because what matters is how I feel about myself, the judgment that I have about myself.
Right.
So that's a relationship. I think the only relationship we have to start with, I guess, is just our own relationship.
To ourselves.
Yeah. So with whatever, like you said, there's a neutral thing that is there, the event.
Yeah.
And then we just need to say, what's the judgment that I have about myself in this situation that makes me so X, Y, Z? And
because that's how you relate to it, right? Yeah.
And I love the fact that you said to kind of slow down in that moment of feeling the feeling, to first off have the awareness of what is it exactly. Like, am I feeling alone, ignored, or what's that feeling? And like you said, most people, they're like, I don't like this, and so they're gonna numb it. Might go for a drink, couple tequilas and tacos, you know. And but then if you avoid that and you're like, yeah, okay, it's really, I don't like that, but I'm gonna feel it, like you said. And I think that's your strength. Like, you're always helping us to slow down in that point and say, okay, hold on, guys. What's the feeling? And you're like, I don't want to stay there very long.
Yeah.
But then if you know it, then you can actually introspect a little bit more and feel, okay, what's the judgment at the end that I have about myself? And it's just usually based on something that happened a long time ago, but that could be cleared because it's not the truth. And then you brought the kindness, and I think there's forgiveness. Gary Muller was my coach for years, and that's what we did in Kauai. We just erased everything, the judgment that I had about myself, and the way to erase it was with forgiveness. But it
cleaning up
meant that I needed to sat in that feeling, like you said, and really sitting in it. And then after that, really forgiving it, because you can't just say, oh, I forgive. It's forgiven. And you'll know it's not forgiven every time you're triggered, because you'll go back to the same judgment and it's like, I'm still triggered by the same thing.
Right.
The same source, the same line code.
That's so powerful. It's like in your mind, oh, there's a spill on aisle 7. We got to go clean that up. Right. And it's the judgment of self. We're not conditioned to recognize first the spill, because we're in the heat of whatever the exchange is.
It's not even our spill.
Right.
It's your spill.
And then we're reacting to the spill, as opposed to, hey, there's a spill, let's go clean it up and not make it mean something. I think what's powerful in what you were sharing is that doing that work and being confident and secure in who you are with regardless of what the external stimuli is. Because the image that came to mind that you said, if somebody spat in my face and I'm like, ooh, someone spits in my face, I might just assert myself.
Right.
But then the thought went to, oh, wait, Jesus was spat on.
Exactly.
In that moment. And yet had the power to,
because he knew that
wipe
it was
them
not
out.
about him, and it was somebody that was hurt and that was expressing his anger in that
Sure.
way. And he's like, they just don't know. It's not. It's lack of understanding,
right.
and they're triggered maybe because now they're scared of something of the truth,
right.
and they're spitting in his face. And why would he take it personal?
So what do you make? What do you make
Well,
it mean, right?
And it's so I want to acknowledge you for that level of mastery.
Spitting,
right?
The spitting,
the
distinction.
no, but
Being
I think
okay with being spat on.
no, but and that's powerful.
It is.
It's extremely powerful because somebody's coming at you with the highest form of disrespect, in my opinion, the highest form of disrespect. And for you to be able to recognize that it's not about you and that they're in their mess and not having to react and engage with an emotional response, that's mastery. That level of mastery over being is of the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the ultimate. I'm still practicing. I know. And the thing is, that's going back a little bit about knowing. Like I'm in between right now, so I have the awareness of knowing about it and have known it a couple times, but it's not as you in the yoga having this kind message in your head yet. I don't. So if somebody would spit to me, like chances are 1 and 2, I'd be very, very upset. But but at least I can acknowledge myself of the progress that I've made to not react maybe 50% of the time, so that at least I'm gonna get to maybe a point where it's not about me ever. That's the level of mastery.
As you guys were talking, what kept showing up for me was presence, being present enough to feel what we need to feel in the moment versus keeping it with you and then taking the time later to kind of like, let me deal with all these things. Let me go deal with aisle 7, by the end of the night, right?
Yeah.
But being so present within to notice, because in my experience, and I think that if I'm present enough, I can feel without my mind taking the time to create stories. And then I can just process it within seconds and move on. So I think at the end of it, it comes down to presence. And I'm looking at Nikola Tesla's quote above you guys. It said, the present is theirs, the futures for which I really worked is mine. But I think, because you were saying like being able to really feel what's going on now versus I feel like a lot of times we try and rush into finding a solution or fixing it, or what is the I am that I'm telling myself right now so that I can say my declarations or say what I need to say to myself and get rid of this, versus not being a mind thing at all, but a very body energetic thing. Like, something is off, I'm going to let it pass through and it's going to be yucky, and I might cry it out. I might just, but I'm just going to sit here and let it pass through. And it's probably going to take 20 seconds. But the relationship we have with that is that that's going to feel terrible. So I'm going to avoid it. So I'm going to put it, I'm going to put it in the back burner. And now I have a bag of things that I need to sit with and go on a retreat and sit there for 5 days and feel all these things. Of
aisle 7, aisle 15.
The pile has gotten
parking
larger
lot.
And
this
big
monk told
bonfire
me,
in the parking lot.
I like that you bring the body because it's great when you have the awareness. That's something I could improve, is to know. And I know you ask that question a lot, and I love that from you because you say, where do you feel it in your body? I've heard you say that before, and now you talk about it, this relationship. And I think that when you know where it is, that means that you can not even necessarily ask the question, but when you recognize what's going on in your body, you're like, oh, that's why. I know that for me, there's one thing that I know for sure, that when it happens, it's a good sign. It's kind of that chill in the back of my back. I know it's truth. If I say something, I'm going to feel it. I'm like, oh, this, I've learned and practiced it that, oh, that means it's the truth. And I know that my body has all the information about all the other emotions. So I like that you bring that up, because when we're so aware, it could be in the neck, the throat area. We just feel like the pressure, the lower back, whatever it is. And then you can say, oh, that's where it's coming from.
It's such a beautiful experience, this human being experience, you know. I feel like we're born and God is telling us, okay, create your own manual. I'm not going to give you a manual, right? And as you get to know yourself, like you say, now that when I feel like this, I know that's what's happening. It's like you continue creating an instruction, like a manual for your own body and your being and how things function for yourself. And they might change with time and everything. But isn't that the whole purpose, is to discover who you are? And we're all different. You know, what might work for me doesn't necessarily work for you or translate to the same things. That's the whole beauty, is to discover for yourself.
And your ability to listen to that, the kinesthetic, what's your body telling you? That goes back to not drinking, because you not only did you listen, you were aware of what was going on. You made a conscious decision to change your behavior because of your awareness of the signals that your body was giving you. How many people are walking around right now that their body's just firing off all kinds of warning signals for them, and they're just completely ignoring them? Like that in and of itself right there is like we can do a whole series just on how to listen to your body for the best, creating the best version of yourself.
Yeah, because you can feel the energy move through your body.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday when I was singing, I could feel the energy move through my body, you know, and then once I let it out, puked it, you know, I didn't know what was going on, but I just let it be. And then once it came out, I heard, if you can't have it, it means you're less, you know, and it's something that's a belief I have been, right? Like, so if you tell me I can't have this, or you can't buy that, it's too expensive, or you can't have something, and it's right there in front of me, what I make it mean is I'm less. That's why I can't have it, right? What I used to make it mean. But you see, I didn't even know that's what I was releasing. Like the energy left me, and I felt really great afterward. And then I was like, oh, but there was the vibration of that belief didn't even resonate with me, you know, because I knew that's what I just let out and got rid of. But that was complete energy work. I didn't sit there trying to figure out with my head, like, why am I feeling this way? Why did I get mad about this? You know, I wasn't analyzing at all. That was the beauty about that, you know, and I think that's my next step in using my voice, is kind of like just move things that way. And you'll understand later. I don't need to understand now. I'll understand later.
The next intro is going to be sang by
That's right.
the voice.
And that's flow, right? That's the flow state.
That's the flow state.
Yeah.
And then Erik will dance. And you'll do improv.
I can do that.
We'll have our own
So
band.
you'll get people feeling joyful and happy and laughing, and people will be inspired, and then I'll bring them back to humor again.
That's beautiful. What a trio.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of things that we've discovered and released in 2024. What are your intentions for 2025 without attachment?
I'll go with faith for me, for sure. Like living that story that I shared today with my beautiful goddess, 333. And I saw 333 so many times today. I think it's living from my higher self, you can call it, knowing that it's done. So then I don't need to worry, and I can just have some fun, be curious, and create from that. You can say, differently saying that it's not living from, or being, I guess, influenced by any external circumstances. But I will choose faith. Faith for me is faith in expansion, living from that space that it's already done and having fun, because it is done. It was, like I said, with the story of the chosen, and you just have to say the words and it's done. What if It's not a what if. I'm choosing to live my life this way in 2025.
I can't add to that. That's amazing. That's beautiful. So concise.
You're gonna go with that intention too. If you do it, so I was gonna say the same. I'm gonna go with faith.
That is beautiful, by the way. I really appreciate the intention.
And to be honest, like I'll add just something. I started to reconnect with God, and I used to say more of the universe before because I guess I felt uncomfortable. For me, there's a creator, there's God, and I really feel that there's a possibility that Jesus Christ was an avatar of being God. He's definitely living the Christ consciousness, which is, the God, the creation. And so the faith came with, and I told you guys before, the green card process and what I have to go through and the questions that I had to ask about my religion and everything. And I had to work. I did work and explored my faith through, at the end, it was 13 pages of answer. And I'm so glad that I got reconnected with God that way. And then talking to other people and the chosen. And so I feel that Jesus Christ was such a beautiful example of these miracles being created by that faith. And that's and imagine this avatar that shows up, and imagine what it would look like in 2025. Somebody's like, I'm the Messiah, the Messiah. You're like, who are you? He's like, no. And then he had to go through all of the judgments of everyone around him, like knowing that he had to be crucified on and doing it, knowing it. And to me, even if you don't believe in God or Jesus, just the courage that this guy had to have, knowing the outcome, knowing that it's already done, and still going through that for the whole benefit of the world. To me, that's what I also mean by this faith, the faith that he had. That's just giving me kind of a character, or you can call it a superhero, alter ego of this is how I want to live from. Because, there's no fear. If you and he also knew he's eternal, so it doesn't matter. But even as human being, you say, hey, you're not really dying, so it doesn't matter what's happening to you. Like, would you still do it? Even if I'm telling you, I'm like, yeah, it's just a game. So the choice of being in that faith to me brings so much power because I feel like I can do anything with that. And it's a choice that we can make.
Yeah.
I'm complete.
Amen.
Amen.
I think my intention for 2025 would simply to bring, how do I want to say that? You're so eloquent with your speech. I'm creating a story in my mind of comparison right now.
Remove that subject with kindness. Practice. Full circle. Don't be attached to the outcome.
Right. Yeah. Having fun. I think creating love and service through story. And that's my intention. My intention is I need to continue to decide to be unattached from the outcome, because I'm very attached to the story. Yeah, that's right. Because when you first,
I'm like, I need to continue to decide.
It's a choice.
It's a
daily.
choice.
It's not need to continue.
It's a daily choice.
I'm doing it the full circle of our commitment.
Because it can be very easy to get attached back to the film getting complete. That's going to happen. I need to come from a place of it already happening, and unattached to the when or the how. But service in love and kindness through story, and inspiring others through story to be love and kindness to others. And that's my purpose. I was 41 years old when I first found my purpose, when I was on a documentary film crew in the jungles of El Salvador, filming a team of people that were drilling a clean water well for a small village that didn't have clean water. And I realized at that moment that through capturing these stories and being able to, because of the internet and technology and everything else that we have access to, podcasts, that perhaps someone comes across that story and is inspired to do something great in their own community or elsewhere. And that increases love and service for those around them.
Amen to you too.
Hallelujah. Amen.
Beautiful intentions.
How about you?
You know, I really connect to the faith part. So God, whatever Francis said. I am operating actually from a more of a faith place. It's been more and more, and I could totally feel it. And I want to be more in that. Faith is what got me to go in the room and sing last night. Faith is what's got me to become kinder to myself and creating that automatic self-talk. So definitely going more with faith and using my voice more, seeing where this path of chanting and singing, how we can creating this frequency, because that's what it is at the end of this. The sound is a frequency that you create, that can help me move things for myself. Can it maybe help move things for others? So I want to explore that more.
Who wants to hear Sarah singing in 2025? Yeah, let's go.
2025.
Let's go.
Yes.
More like healing, more like in a healing sense.
Yeah, whatever sense.
I don't think I'm going to start singing Beyonce, but
I think I see faith frequency for you. That's what it is.
faith frequency.
Living in that world.
Yeah.
Could be expressed in so many ways.
What do you mean?
Well, the faith frequency through your voice, through what you do. I love the fact that, for you, it's to be expressed with your voice, and it could be expressed in so many ways. So the faith frequency is I think that's what I see in you for 2025.
Faith frequency.
FF.
FF. I have an F tattooed on my left rib. It's what my mom was. But maybe I'll add another F.
Yeah.
FF 2025. I think we're coming to a close. Words cannot express how grateful I am to both of you for being in my life, for sharing the space with me, for sharing your wisdom, for holding me when I'm falling apart, for redirecting me when I'm, being stubborn, for showing me the way. God definitely does come through both of you for me. Thank you.
You're giving us the exact same gift. So thank you.
This is what love looks like.
Definitely.
Honestly.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for my life because you're in it. Thank you.
Same.
I love you both.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Love you too.
Thank you everyone for watching. This was the Sarra Show. I'll see you next time.
Hey, don't forget to hit that like button, smash that bell notification, and hit subscribe so that you'll be notified the next time a new video drops. And until next time, cheers.
Let's take a moment to reflect on the power of purpose. Sefamar, a leader in assembling vehicles in Morocco, builds more than machines. They create the essential vehicles that move us forward, connecting people, building cities, and enabling progress. Just as their trucks and buses carry people and materials, bringing to life a vision of growth and development, we too are vehicles, carriers of ideas, dreams, and deeper truths. At the Sarra Show, we embrace what it means to be human and to serve a purpose beyond ourselves. When we surrender to that purpose, we unlock our true potential. Sefamar's vehicles connect communities. We, in turn, connect hearts and minds. Thank you for joining us in this shared journey of creation and connection. Together, we are all vehicles for something greater.